Стивен, 48-летний житель Канады. До обучения в школе Снежко он всю жизнь лечил свое заикание и постоянно попадал в различные ловушки для заикающихся. Послушайте, как он говорил, когда пришел в школу Снежко.
A lot of silent blocks, nasty ass facial contortions. They're just like scrunching my face up and when I'm trying to push it out with my tongue. Even I actually sometimes bite my own tongue. It's like, and that bloody hurts.
На третий день занятий он заговорил нормально и рассказал о тех ловушках, через которые прошел.
I think I've spent the last 35 years looking for the cure, which I know doesn't exist and it's not needed. Due to your situation, due to your circumstances, and due to desperation, a lot of the time, you tend to reach out and grab whatever's there. And what happens is, if you've seen or read or heard that someone has had success, you'll go for it. On each of these methods or techniques, you invested a lot of your time, your effort, your hopes, and you were building this up into a thing that you thought was the panacea, it was the cure, it was the thing. And as each one of them happened and didn't work, the investment of your time and effort and sometimes money was just wasted. Yes, I went to conventional speech therapy.
How old were you?
Probably 9 or 10, and that was typically in a environment with a group, which is always fun. You have a circle of people all with the same issue, but some had it to a more intense degree. Some were worse, some were better. And you had the fun of going around the room trying to speak, and the speech therapist using a blanket approach to everybody, just doing the same drills. It was no fun.
But how did you feel when they would pull you from the classroom?
Oh, it was horribly embarrassing. You always had the questions, where is Stephen going, what's going on, and it kind of made it more of a focus on me and my problems, so that was no fun. And it didn't help. Most of the time they were just concentrating on slowing down. They were then asking me to do easy onset of letters and sounds, elongation, and other such things that are not natural. They were just tricks or ways to get some kind of speech out, even though it wasn't particularly natural and normal. So that was their approach. Now, I'm not having a go at the approach because that was what they did, and I'm assuming they did it with their best interests at heart, but that was just with the knowledge they had. I went from various speech therapists at school, and then as I got into my adult life, I then had some speech therapy that I did myself and I paid for. So I spent years on and off going to therapists. All my speech problem waxed and waned. It was good, it was bad. Some things, some situations were good, some situations were bad. So my enthusiasm to fix it went up and down during the years. Well, after the regular conventional speech therapy, I then went down the alternative routes. First one was a course run by Andrew Bell in Kirkcaldy in Scotland.
I've heard so many good things about him.
That was probably 1995, November. I went on a course there, and it was worrying when Andrew Bell put himself out as being a fluent speaker and he's cured himself, but then the very first time I met him, he was stammering. So it's kind of not a good advert for the technique. It's like purchasing a cream from a bald man who says he can cure baldness. It just doesn't work. I spent 4 days in Scotland on the course with him. He was teaching a technique that was a non-natural technique. Well, the technique was mainly easy onset and elongation, but wrapped up in a mysterious package that he was selling. I had about 2 or 3 months where I felt better, but then during the course of that time, the technique didn't hold up to any scrutiny. It didn't hold up to stress because it was a technique. It was a crutch. So after the Andrew Bell experiment, I then did some...
I like that experiment.
I did some hypnotherapy. So I went to see a hypnotist. I was trying everything at that point. It was whatever the latest thing was, I tried it. So I went to see a lady who got me very relaxed, and I was very calm. And during that session, I was speaking great. But then, once you got out of the relaxation and the environment, bang, back to normal. You pick up the phone, you had issues. So it didn't cure, it didn't fix. It was just, again, something that seemed to work in that very relaxed, secure environment. Not the real world. I then did the Maguire program. I did that a number of times. The first time...
Really? Even several times? Did you have to pay several times?
I paid the first time, and then on the second or the third time, you just paid a coach fee. It was a smaller amount.
But you still paid?
But you still made a payment.
And with how many people were in the group?
I think there was about 30 odd people, at least.
Still not bad money.
Oh yeah, it was good money. So I went on that course, and I learnt the costal breathing. You're drilled, and you're wearing a belt around your chest, around here. But it's more about the whole concept of being a recovering stutterer and accepting it. Because the only way you can help yourself is by accepting it, embracing it, and telling everyone, hey, I'm a stutterer, and then you become more relaxed. It was to break down the fear and to make other people aware. But in hindsight, it's making people more uncomfortable, because if someone comes up to you and says, hey, I'm a stutterer, or I've got a problem, it might make them uncomfortable. And that isn't fair. It's not fair on them. I don't think that the instructors were doing anything malicious or anything bad. They were just teaching what they knew and what they understood. But it was teaching something that was not normal or not natural, because breathing is the most natural thing in the world. It just happens. And you shouldn't really have to think about breathing. It just happens. Okay, the next thing after that was going on to some supplements, because I had read that magnesium and other things would relax the vocal muscles. I think that was a Martin Schwartz thing. Well, I believe from the theory was if you took vitamin B1 and B12, magnesium supplements, it would assist with relaxation and relaxation of the vocal cords and muscles. So tried that, didn't work. The next thing was I went to see a gentleman down in Los Angeles. His name is Dr. Gerald Maguire. He was working on the pharmacological way of treating speech. At that time he was doing research and the studying of a drug called Pagaclone, which hadn't been released, and they were doing clinical trials on that drug, and they had people involved with the trials, and it gave some help to some people, but ultimately the drug wasn't released. because he himself was a stutterer. He self-prescribed himself drugs. He was on a drug called Zyprexa, which is known as olanzapine, which is an antipsychotic drug.
Oh my God.
Seriously. He theorized the issue was with regards to the person's levels of dopamine and serotonin in the brain. So he used those kind of drugs to regulate the balance. I then decided to take advantage of taking these drugs, and probably within a week of taking them, I was not blocking. My speech issues were probably 90% fixed. I was very relaxed. In fact, I was comatose. I was very relaxed. I was a zombie.
Of course.
So I was speaking well, but I was speaking very slowly and relaxed. I was drugged. And the other side effects to taking these drugs are weight gain, drowsiness, potential issues for diabetes. So for a period of time I was taking these drugs, I was getting regular blood tests, checking that my levels were as they should be. I did this for 6 months, put on 30 pounds, and then had to wean off those because I was not a happy bunny.
Oh my God. So you did your best to contribute to Big Pharma.
Yeah, I was a guinea pig.
Yeah, and so are the rest of almost 70 million people in the world.
Yeah. There was another one. It was neuro-repatterning. I got from this gentleman, and I can't remember his name, but he was very helpful. He did not charge me. He sent me the book for free. And he had helped himself, as per usual. And I spoke to him, and he was very pleasant. We exchanged emails. He sent me the book. And it was spending about 1 hour per day drilling sounds, drilling certain words and sounds, and bang, 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 for about an hour a day, which again is an investment of time. It's an hour I won't get back. So I spent 3 months drilling every day, an hour, sometimes 2 hours a day. And there was a benefit. I was getting a decent level of fluency. But then if you stopped practicing for any period of time, the benefits just went straight away. It was during a time when I was doing a lot of exams because we moved over to Canada and I needed to get some more formal Canadian education in the financial services. And I felt it would be beneficial because the books, big thick books, lots of them. I did a speed reading course where it just taught you to look at certain words within a line, within a paragraph, so you could pick up the main gist of what was being said. So instead of reading every single word in the line in a sequential order, you were skip reading words so you could pick up what was being said. And I think that maybe had a detrimental effect as well, because you're not looking and thinking in a sequential order all of the words. You were picking select words. NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. They encourage you to get relaxed and into an ideal state where you felt comfortable to speak and to act. You would anchor that state of mind, generally with your finger and thumb or some physical action. And that action was then linked to the ideal state. So you had a mental state and an associated physical condition. So the theory behind it was you got yourself into this mental state of calmness and readiness, but it was associated with something you could feel. So if at a time of stress or initiation of speech, you would then go back to that anchor, you would then recreate the physical movement, which would then spark off the mental state of being calm. Maybe an external person, they would touch you on the shoulder, so there was a touch. But if you're doing it yourself, there would be the touching of your fingers. The anchor would then take you back to that state. That was the theory.
Now with your knowledge, what are you supposed to feel? Your fingers, your tap of your shoulder, or
Your tongue. Because that's the only thing that is used when you're speaking.
you've been through tons of programs.
Yeah.
How can you compare all of the other programs and the 3-day Etalon study course?
I can honestly say there's really no comparison, because with all of the other methods and treatments and practices, they were really giving you an artificial way of doing things. It wasn't natural. It was a crutch. It was a technique. It was a temporary fix. It wasn't educating you on how to do something right. It was more piling something else onto something you're already doing wrong. So it was just building on wrong methods. With the Etalon way of doing things, you're taught the correct way to speak. It's rational. It's what regular everyday folk do. It's not a crutch. It's not an artificial thing. It's nothing that people are going to look at you and think, why is he doing that? It's just normal, rational speech. That's the difference. I'd spent 48 years looking for this panacea, this ultimate solution, which didn't exist until now. I have managed to gain control over my speech, and I can now produce regular, normal, rational speech after 3 days rather than 48 years. In fact, I could do it after 1 day, if I'm being honest. But the second and the third day just built on, it added to, it strengthened my knowledge of the correct way to speech. It was just one thing I wanted to say was a huge thank you from me. I think this is going to make a massive difference in my life and in everyone else's life around me. My wife also wanted to thank you because she's got her husband back. So thank you.
She's got her husband back. I like that.
So that's my thank you. Thank you.